Before we get started on what we anticipate to be a fun and jovial podcast, we found it necessary to give a quick history lesson. And this makes absolute sense because one of us is a molder of young minds, while the other one acts like he still has a young mind. Now, back in the year 2019, after what was a heartbreaking loss in the Western Conference Finals, one Sebi Salazar, who was despised by the one they call Philly, by the way, interviewed the head coach of the Seattle Sounders, Brian Schmetzer. And without getting into any details of the interview, Brian's reaction was that he was feeling a heck of a lot better than LAFC's head coach at the time, Bob Bradley. This, of course, was pertaining to the Sounders' 3-1 victory over LAFC at Bank of California Stadium. Now, fast forward 4 years later, Brian may have felt better than Bob did in 2019, but he sure doesn't feel better than Steve Cherundolo and LAFC does now in the year 2023 as our beloved club silences the team that once was thought as unbeatable at home in the playoffs. And with that, let's get this motherfucking party started. Hello, Los Angeles. Hello, fans of Major League Soccer. Hello, lovers of the beautiful game. And hello to the millions
and millions
of Defenders of the Bank listeners. The podcast heard in over 109 countries. And big shout out to our fans over in Romania. Merci foarte frumos. I used to refer to myself as the platinum-colored haired flamingo, but I am just a bland colored one, battle-tested and battle-scarred, but still alive, much like LAFC in the playoffs and not like 25 other MLS franchises. Today was a very historic day in the history of LAFC, and we have a pod to record the highlights, the Emerald City emasculation of the Seattle Sounders. But of course, introductions are in order. I know what Scarf's thinking. This is way too long-winded. But regardless, my name is Christian Filament, otherwise known as Philly, and joining me all the way from the South Bay, my main man in all things LAFC related, J.R. Liebert.
The Scarf, what is good, Defenders Nation? 3 minutes and 2 seconds. I think that might be a new record for you, Philly, on the intro. I got something to say to everybody out there in MLS land listening to our podcast. Finally, LAFC has come back to BMO Stadium December 2nd for the Western Conference Final. Bring on the human highlighters of Houston. Ache. I mean, that is a lot of H's. Hector Herrera of the human highlighters of Houston. Holy, let's go. I don't know that I have been more amped up after a victory in the history of our club, except for one night. Yes, I know we have had many solid victories over Carson in the playoffs. But I'm telling you, Philly, something about this one with Raul Ruidiaz, Nico Lodiero, Christian, and Alex Roldan, Stefan Fry, Nuhu, Yemar Gomez Andrade. All those names, so many demons. And oh, by the way, Chris Penso on the 1s and 2s while Ted Uncle headlines on the main stage. I said it, Philly, when you were bringing up all the stats, 19 wins in a row, haven't beaten them since our inaugural voyage up to Seattle in 2018, that if and when we are to vanquish the Rave Green of Seattle, it would have to be exercising all of those demons in one night. And my friend, we have done it.
It's absolutely wild to think, with all the success that our club has had, that going back to 2018 when Diego Rossi scored the first goal against the Sounders, that we would go 0-4-3 in that neck of the woods. And that's all that we've heard all week long, and actually for 3 freaking weeks long. The fact that Seattle is unbeaten at home in 19 games dating back to 2013. A team that has only lost 2 out of 26 playoff games at home. We've heard this. We've heard that. We heard that they beat us in 2019. We heard that they beat us in 2020. But you know what? Even though we have such a long journey still ahead of us, you're right, my friend. It feels pretty darn good to beat this team and to silence the Sounders. And as I mentioned, emasculate the Emerald City club that has been a thorn in our side, a team that has looked up to us for the majority of this season, with the exception of our last game faux pas in which we tied Vancouver. One could argue we did this to ourselves. We should not have been the 3rd seed. But regardless, Seattle is done. This should have been the Western Conference Final, but it is not. We advance, finally defeating the Sounders in the postseason, on our way back home to the friendly confines of BMO Stadium to take on the Fanta Orange Crush Houston Dynamo. I can't flipping wait.
All right, listen, we got to pay some bills real quick. We are almost 6 minutes into this episode, and the good people at Flex are going, hey, you guys don't have a lot of time. It's Sunday, November 26th at 10:37 p.m. You only got about a month and a week to get that lifetime warranty on any power tool that you buy from flexpowertools.com. When are you guys going to talk about it? It's right now. Christmas is coming up, y'all. Hanukkah's coming up, y'all. Kwanzaa's coming up, y'all. Anything else that you celebrate in the months of November and December is coming up, y'all. My birthday is March 20th. You can get head started on that too. Why not? FlexPowerTools.com. You don't need to buy me Flex Power Tools. The good people at Flex are already taking care of me on the Flex Power Tools things. But either way, FlexPowerTools.com. Full lifetime warranty on anything that you buy. They are both the official front of kit sponsor that neither Philly or I are wearing right now. Front of kit sponsor for LAFC. And of course, the sponsor for Defenders of the Bank. FlexPowerTools.com. Full lifetime warranty. Also want to remind everybody that the Mo Facio futsal court fundraising effort is still underway. LAFC.com/Mo-Facio. Usually this is where we talk about donating. People, donate whatever you can. It's the holidays. None of us have a lot of money. We get it. Donate whatever you can to get this court built. But we have a very special read that we are going to get to do from now until the middle of January. You see, Defenders of the Bank, this humble podcast that is 285 episodes in on our journey that started back in 2018, the same year that our club got off the ground and went running. We have been excited to go. We have been invited to go to the 2024 United Soccer Coaches Convention. And this year, it's in the friendly confines of Anaheim, California. That's right, at the House of the Mouse. The countdown to the pinnacle of soccer learning has begun. It's not just an event, it's an experience. This year features some of the biggest names in soccer: Leonard Griffin from Cal Men's Soccer, Carla Thompson of San Diego Wave FC, and Randy Waldrum, head coach of the Nigerian women's national team. You can engage in immersive field sessions that cover contemporary topics from transition tactics in modern play to the evolution of goalkeeper training, something that Maxime Crepeau can certainly run a masterclass on after today. The business of soccer thrives within the exhibit hall, showcasing hundreds of international brands and the opportunity to network with industry leaders. And there's a special offer if you use the promo code.
Sorry, Scarf. That was a Harry sighting. My bad. Keep going.
That's okay. They're supposed to give us a unique promo code, but we don't have the unique promo code. But you can get a special price of $425 to go to the United Soccer Coaches Convention. It's from January 11th to the 15th, or 10th to the 14th, excuse me. January 10th to the 14th. Prices are going to go up after December 13th. Holy hell, that's a long read. Philly, United Soccer Coaches Convention. You went last year.
No, not last year. Last year was in Philadelphia. I went the year before in Kansas City, Scarf. And I got to tell you, I was on Media Row as a result of being part of Defenders of the Bank, and I had an absolutely great time. I met so many different podcasters, so many different people from Media Row. We met Saskia Weber, one of the owners of Angel City FC. We met the people from Sirius XM FC. We met, so many different podcasts that many of y'all listen to. And obviously, like you alluded to, there are a lot of really great breakout coaching sessions, from doing things indoor to futsal to outdoor to coaching Division I athletes to bringing up people within the club rankings. I had an absolute blast during my time in Kansas City, and the fact that they are hosting this in Anaheim is going to be even better. From what I'm gathering, there's going to be discounts on hotels, there's going to be discounts on tickets to go to Disneyland, and of course, the crown jewel, at least for us in particular, on that Saturday in the Anaheim Convention Center, there will be an indoor soccer exhibition between the San Diego Sockers and the Empire Strikers, in which yours truly will be on the call for that. Like I said, it might be a shameless promo, but I got to tell you, if you are in the business of coaching soccer, it doesn't matter what level, whether it's U7, whether it's JV, varsity, club, professional, there are going to be people and coaches from all around the world. And there are so many unbelievable sessions and so much cool stuff that goes on. $425, honestly, is a steal for the amount of information and tactics and all that stuff that you're going to ascertain as a result of being at this convention. I had a blast, and we hope to see you there in January.
Absolutely. Look, normally I do a This Day in LAFC history, Philly. But here's the thing. We haven't played games this late in LAFC history before, so I'm just going to move straight on to news and notes. And Philly, it's like a reunion is happening in MLS playoffs. In other MLS playoff news, it's an LAFC goal-scoring fest. Christian Ramirez with the game winner for the Crew in their 2-0 win over Orlando. They'll take on FC Cincinnati in a Hell is Real Eastern Conference final. And Franco Escobar with the only goal in the match. Houston 1-0. I have had zero of my predictions come true so far in the playoffs, other than LAFC wins. Sporting Kansas City not making it to the Western Conference final, but it's a game winner for Franco Escobar. Let's go to BMO December 2nd, folks. I love it. This is amazing. This is fantastic. Oh, Philly, let's talk about the award winners. Atlanta's got some good guys.
Yeah, real quick, I wanted to address this question right here. Eduardo, I would have absolutely loved to have played a Nirvana or a Pearl Jam song, but to license these songs on anything commercial related is quite expensive. And yes, while Defenders of the Bank is sponsored by Flex Power Tools, we still have day jobs that, kind of pay for some of the stuff we do. So we're not rich and flush in cash enough to bring on songs like Breed by Nirvana or Alive by Pearl Jam, but I absolutely love that.
Philly, I think Genuine Cougar in the chat, by the way. And first of all, the chat is so alive right now. You guys are killing it. Erica, Jack, Genuine Cougar, Mendo, Dave, Mufasa, Eduardo, JLA, Smalls, Kenobi in the building. We got a
Jack
full
Dickens representing
house
from London, baby. We're international today, Scarf.
I love it. We Genuine Cougar asks charter. We are not going to be able to charter a flight, Defenders of the Bank, to Ohio when we make the final, but we appreciate you asking. Thank you. The MLS award winners, Philly, Georgios Yakumakis with the newcomer of the year, somehow beating out the 6-game total of one Lionel Messi, who was somehow a finalist for that award, which is so ridiculous. Oh, dude, Alive, Eduardo Morales, great song. Thiago Almada winning the Young Player of the Year award. Roman Berkey, who I know you're a big fan of from your days in following the Bundesliga, wins Goalkeeper of the Year. Matt Miazga over Cheeky Palacios wasn't even a finalist. I think MLS, y'all suck. Figure it out. Cheeky Palacios is one of the best defenders in this league, and to me, the best left back. Again, I'll say that. To me, the best left back in Major League Soccer right now. Alan Pulido winning Comeback Player of the Year, and he certainly deserved it. And FC Cincinnati's Pat Noonan winning Coach of the Year. Any thoughts on any of the awards, Philly, or do we just want to keep rolling on through?
Denis Bouanga won the Golden Boot. That is the third LAFC player to do so in 6 or so seasons. All these people, including the coaching staff, deserve it. I have no qualms about Pat Noonan winning. Obviously,
Sure.
FC Cincinnati was one of these wooden spoon contenders, and he learned a lot during his time at the Philadelphia Union, and he turned FC Cincinnati around. Other than that, I've got nothing else to say. Each of these players are very well deserving of their award. I'm good. Let's move on.
I love it. How about a couple of former LAFC players making their mark down in USL this year with Phoenix Rising winning the USL championship, anchored by their leading goal scorer and the pride of Mendota, California, the former black and gold, Danny Trejo, with a second highest goal scoring total in all of USL, 19 goals. By the way, he was second. He was tied with somebody else for second place, Cal Jennings. Jennings and Danny Trejo with 19 goals apiece down in USL. And Mohamed Traore, a starter on defense and a huge part of their back line. Congrats to Phoenix Rising. LAFC is going to be headed back to the Coachella Valley. Philly, you and I had a great time out there in the Coachella Valley last year. We're going to participate in the 2024 Coachella Valley Invitational hosted by AEG. Part of their 2024 preseason. LAFC is one of 10 MLS teams that will travel to Indio, California for matches at the Empire Polo Club from February 4th to the 17th. Mendo, you are not wrong. We will talk about that in a minute. Let's put that up on the thing real quick. Listen, if you guys want to see some other clubs, it's a great way to see a bunch of players play, especially guys that are really far down on the roster. LAFC, Austin FC, Charlotte FC, Carson, Minnesota United, NYCFC, New York Red Bulls, Portland, San Jose, and St. Louis will all be there. Tickets are not on sale yet, but they will be. And we want to give a quick shout out to a bunch of our academy kids and young players at LAFC too. Javen Romero repping Mexico at the U17s. Javen Romero, by the way, started and played in both of those Open Cup matches for LAFC for the big club. So congrats to him on repping the U17s for El Tri. LAFC2's Shakir Nixon and Luca Bombino were called into the U.S. U17s as alternates, and a bunch of academy kids, Pedro Guimaraes, Adrian Sanders, and Liam Lambert called into the U16s for the U.S. men's national team. And Philly, last but not least in LAFC news, Jose Cifuentes has played 4 matches since we last had a podcast. 4 matches. November 5th, he was an unused sub. November 9th, he was subbed on at the 90th +5. November 12th, subbed on at the 89th minute, so he really didn't play in any of those first 3 matches. But they had this long international break that we all had. And Jose Cifuentes started and played the full 90 in a 1-1 draw versus Aberdeen in the Scottish Prem. And that is our LAFC news and notes. But Philly, I wanted to congratulate you. You are the chairman of the McCaskill Mafia, as we all know. And Savannah McCaskill, M.A. Vignola, both named to the best 11 second team. And then Sarah Gordon named to the first team, the best 11. And the only player on Angel City that was named to the team of the month 3 times was Savannah McCaskill. That's your girl. So, Philly, you've been saying since day one, you are the chairman of the McCaskill Mafia, sir, and she is proving you a brilliant, brilliant strategist.
I mean, she was a fantastic player. I will never forget being in Sydney in 2019 and watching her as a member of Sydney FC's women's team. Back then, she was just the American girl on Sydney FC, and she was outstanding. The fact that she would make her way onto an NWSL roster and to a team that we would be very closely tied to in Angel City is pretty darn coincidental. And she's obviously proved all the naysayers wrong. She is a player that plays with a lot of heart, nothing but love for Savannah McCaskill. But Scarf, I got to ask you one quick question. We're obviously talking about Jose Cifuentes. At one point, do we look at him as if he's, the ex-girlfriend, if you will? Do we keep going out there and doing research and paying attention to Jose Cifuentes? He's moved on. There are people within this fan base and supporters of the Defenders of the Bank and members of the millions of our listeners that are Celtic fans. At what point do we stop talking about Jose Cifuentes?
I have an answer for you. After we hoist MLS Cup.
All right, fair enough. I don't need to hear about Jose Cifuentes anymore. He's no longer part of our club. We don't need to hear about any former members.
But Philly, if we etched names into MLS Cup after we won it like they do in the Stanley Cup. He played for us this season. He was one of us this year. Then we say bye-bye. We don't do Edward Atuesta updates anymore. We don't do Diego Rossi updates anymore. We keep it only until the season.
This might be the single most important question that we will ever be asked on this podcast. And the simple answer is right here. And for those of you who have no idea what the heck's going on because, well, you've resorted to listening to us rather than watching these faces for radio.
You're brilliant.
Big Kid Zach asked the question, where's Hello Kitty? And the answer to that is right here.
Hello, Mr. Scarf. It has been a very long time since I have graced this podcast, and it is very humbling to know that there are many others that are part of the millions. And millions, that's fine if you don't want to answer, of Defenders of the Bank listeners that are very curious as to my whereabouts. So I would like to give a big shout out to Big Kid Zach for recognizing me. This is a jovial party. Let's get this motherfunking party started. Yay!
Big Kid Zach, it's past your bedtime. Go to bed. All right. Let's go. Let's get into it. We're 20 minutes into the pod. It's been a hot mess, but let's talk about LAFC versus Seattle. Philly, I'm going to step out of the way and allow you for just a moment to go through all of those ridiculous statistics that we proved we could still win in the face of, because there were an awful lot of them coming in to this match, pointing to a Seattle Sounders victory.
I'm going to start off with what was mentioned in the LA Times by what is the biggest heel in LA soccer history, Kevin Baxter. Now, Kevin Baxter obviously threw all the facts out there, which a lot of them were absolutely true. LAFC has not been successful in the Pacific Northwest since Diego Rossi's historic goal in the 11th minute, March of 2018. We've gone 4-3 in Seattle. This is a team that has gone on a 19-game unbeaten streak since 2014, tying that of the New England Revolution. A team that has only lost 2 games out of 26 home playoff games. We've heard time and time again that nobody can beat Seattle at home. And let me tell you, the thing that angered and disgusted me so much about Kevin Baxter's article is the references to LA Galaxy players. He referenced AJ De La Garza. He referenced Juninho. Why? Those guys don't effing matter. The Galaxy doesn't effing matter, but this POS writer still throws his allegiance in an article that pertains to us. Yes, Seattle is a tough place for LA teams to win. He alluded to the fact that the Galaxy have not had a good run in the Pacific Northwest. He alluded to the fact that Angel City did not succeed in the Pacific Northwest. He alluded to the fact that LAFC has not won there since 2018, but he had the gall to reference and interview 2 flipping Galaxy players in this interview. And if he's not a heel to you before, he's got to be a heel to you now. This man is a jellyfish, and I would happily tell him this to his face. He is spineless. He does not stand for anything. He's there for clickbaits. He does not have any allegiances. He's a heel to the Galaxy. He's a heel to LAFC. And if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything. Kevin Baxter, how dare you interview Galaxy players on an LAFC article? That being said, we absolutely shut you up and all those historical facts, and it felt pretty darn good.
Yeah, I believe he said LAFC had, and I quote, a slim chance of winning, something like that. So look, Kevin Baxter, by the way, Kevin, we know you listen to the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We would love to have you on the podcast. Come on. I would love to have you talk about how it is that you cover both soccer clubs in the Los Angeles area, the one that plays in Los Angeles, the one that plays near it, how you cover them impartially if you are a guest / co-host on the Corner of the Galaxy podcast quite some time. But you know what, Philly, here's the thing.
Jellyfish is what that man is.
Here's what we're doing wrong. We're actually giving Galaxy some airtime right now. They're on vacation. They've been vacationing, really. I mean, let's be honest. They've been vacationing since like early September with the way that they were playing in the standings and everything else. So look, no more about them. Here's the deal. Seattle came in to the MLS Cup playoffs, let alone what they've done in the history of their playoff wins. And they are the gold standard for clubs since 2009, since they've come in. They came into this season's MLS Cup playoffs on a 10-match unbeaten streak. Now, granted, they lost once in the stupid 3-game series that they played, against Dallas. But they were on a 10-match unbeaten streak, even coming into the playoffs. So, yes, historically, we're bad up there. Yes, historically, they're great in the playoffs. But even this season, they did that typical Seattle Sounders thing that they do, where they put it together towards the end of the season. And with all of those players that we have mentioned, with all of that playoff experience, I mean, that is a solid, talented club. But Philly, it doesn't matter anymore. All those great numbers, all those great records, I think we may have ended this current iteration of the Seattle Sounders dynasty. That roster is going to look very different next year. I think that's my favorite thing. That's my new favorite insult. We could just call Kevin Baxter the wooden spoon. He's the wooden spoon. Soccer USA for the win on that one. Kevin Baxter, you are the wooden spoon of soccer columnists. There you go.
You know, I don't hate the Seattle Sounders. I got to say, I absolutely respect them, their history, what they've done. Obviously, throughout the broadcast, MLS had to go pan over to their banners, in which we saw the 2016 and 2019 MLS Cup champions. And obviously that 2019 season is something that really chaps away at us, more so than that 2020 season, by the way. But I don't hate the Seattle Sounders as much as I probably should. And the reason being is because they are a very significant part of our history, Scarf. Today, we obviously added another notch to the bedpost. But if we go back to March of 2018, LAFC's very first game, the game in which Diego Rossi scored the first goal against the Sounders in the 11th minute, that came out as a huge game, and it set the tone for what we anticipated LAFC to be in 2018. And then we go to that first game at the Bank, April of 2018, in stoppage time, Laurent Simon scoring that free kick goal that bounced off of the gloves of Stephen Fry, who was still there, by the way, and he had himself a really good season, 14 clean sheets, 0.88 GAA. Whatever, more on that later. But the Seattle Sounders are a significant part of our history, and I am so beyond happy to have us ascertain another W against them in a time period in which, well, we haven't been successful against them because we've heard this looming. We can't beat them in the playoffs. But anyway, we should probably get into the lineups and get into this game recap.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's talk about Seattle first. Of course, they've got Brian Schmetzer on the sideline, 61 years old. Brian Schmetzer, he has been coaching there forever. Their formation, they love to come out in this 4-2-3-1, and it's that was fun for me. Goalkeeper Stephen Fry, you mentioned it, 14 clean sheets on the year. He is just as good as he ever was. He is an ageless wonder between the pipes. On the back line, this might be the last match for Nuhu in Rave Green, from what I hear. Maybe Jackson Reagan. Look, he was my player to watch, and dude was big. Dude had a really good game today. I got to be honest. Jackson Reagan looked pretty good. Yamar, Gomez, Andrade, and Alex Roldan rounding out the back line. In the midfield, Josh Atencio and Joao Paulo. At forward, Leo Chu, Albert Rusnak, Christian Roldan, and Jordan Morris. And coming off the bench, look, our bench is pretty good. We got guys like Aaron Long, who's a U.S. men's national team defender. We got Matty Bogusz coming off the bench. We got some really good players coming off the bench, Philly. They brought off Nico Lodiero, Raul Ruidiaz, and the young kid who's going to be taking over soon, Reed Baker-Whiting. Those are their only 3 subs on the day, which, by the way, tells me, look, it's like playoff basketball, right, Philly? You shorten your roster. You don't have a bench of 12 or 13 anymore. You got like 3 or 4 guys that you can depend on when it comes time to really hammer it home in the playoffs. And that's exactly what we saw Brian Schmetzer do? Just go with three players off the bench in Lodeiro, Rui Diaz, and Reed Baker-Whiting. And again, I just want to remind everybody, coming into this, head referee, Ted Uncle, Chris Penso on VAR. Holy hell in a handbasket. That is not the crew that we wanted to see there. But Philly, the crew we did want to see there was wearing black and gold. And I have to say, I was a little skeptical about one of our midfielders, and he certainly shut me up in the middle of the match. But otherwise, a perfect roster. What a match for these guys from LAFC.
I mean, the odds were stacked against us. I mean, the minute we see Penso and Uncle, obviously we're all going to shudder. And I've said this so many times throughout the 50-plus game preview, review, recaps that we've done. I mean, we've done an awful lot of podcasts this season. This season by itself, we have definitely set a record for the amount of content that you and I have produced. But when you have Penso and Uncle, when you know the names of the officials, that's a problem. You're not supposed to know the names of the officials. When you and I grew up watching baseball, I don't recall the names of any umpires. When we were watching basketball, I don't recall the names of any referees. But let alone going into our fandom and our love of Major League Soccer, the fact that we know so many of the pro officials, and pro is the governing body, which I will always refer to as pretty rancid officiating, that just speaks numbers. But anyway, going into it, we came out with a very formidable lineup within our own right, obviously sticking with that 4-3-3 formation. But real quick, in between the pipes, and boy, did he earn his paycheck today. If there's ever a doubt about this man's greatness, Maxime Crepeau, starting in between the pipes for LAFC, had a magnificent performance. Yes, our outside backs, Cheeky Palacios and Ryan Hollingshead. Our center backs, Jesus David Murillo, and surprisingly enough, Giorgio Chiellini, a man at 38 years old, 39 years old, featured on turf. And we looked at his knees as the game progressed, and boy, did it look like a plate of spaghetti bolognese after he got some slide tackles. By no means is that a racist comment. I absolutely love spaghetti, and so does Scarf and Giorgio Chiellini. Our midfield, Kellen Acosta, Ilie Sanchez, and Timothy Tillman. And up top, our Capitan, Carlos Vela, the Golden Boot leader and the number 4 goal scorer in the world in 2023. And if you want some more fun stats, go back to One More Sleep. And then on the other side, Kike Oliveira, who had a pretty successful outing with the Uruguayan national team. That is LAFC's starting lineup. The teacher is raising his hand, asking the student a question. What have you, my son?
2 questions. Number 1, who was number 2 in the world in goal scoring again? What's his name? Pito?
Yes.
Where does he play again? Estonia. Okay, that was the number 2. And then, okay, quick question. So Romanian food, right? Romanian food. If it were Alexander Mitrițu, and his legs looked like that, what food would it be if he was Romanian? I'm just curious.
Mici. Or no, sarmale. Sarmale would be what Mitrițu's knees would look like. Sarmale is a Romanian term for stuffed cabbage.
I think that also gets you 5 to 10 years if you say it the wrong way. All right, let's talk about this match. Oh my goodness. Second minute of the match. We're actually not going to go minute by minute because the second half, there's really very little reason to go minute by minute. But in the second minute, look, you guys, I really do believe that there's even though, look, I think Giorgio Chiellini had maybe his best match as a black and gold defender today.
I say that every match he plays.
No.
But listen, Giorgio Chiellini.
I am absolutely a Giorgio Chiellini homer. Yes, sir. I resemble that remark. But if you go back and watch this match, I mean, he was everywhere. I think Ryan Hollingshead was good, even though he went to ground one time in the box and almost killed me. I thought Cheeky Palacios was amazing. I thought Murillo was great. But I'm sorry, everybody in the chat saying it, and they're absolutely right. Philly, you're absolutely right. We love John McCarthy here on this podcast. We've talked to John. We've had lots of great moments with John. But today, Maxime Crepeau showed you why He is one of, if not the best goalkeeper in Major League Soccer. He was incredible. He was decisive. He was everywhere. And it started in the second minute, Philly, against Josh Atencio, off the half bounce, top of the box, a diving save by Maxime Crepeau, solid clearance by Murillo. But then just 2 minutes later, Jordan Morris was off to the races. My boy Giorgio, look, he's 39. He's not Jordan Morris has had what, 3 ACL, knee, all kind of other surgeries. He's still faster than Giorgio Chiellini at 39 years old. And if not for Maxime Crepeau coming all the way out, and getting that paw on it up top to knock that ball away. I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, Maxime Crepeau in the first 4 minutes of the match, Philly, was putting everybody on notice that he was there to play.
I mean, it might have been inconsequential to the naked eye, but I mean, those were tone setters, absolute tone setters, because I mean, we know our record and we'll talk about it in just a second, but LAFC is just not a team that competes really well when they're playing from behind. They're a successful team when they score first. And obviously going into a place like Lumen Field, a place that, well, we haven't had a lot of success lately. Last 4 games that we've had against the Sounders, we've only drew against them at home, at their home, and won in our home. It's tough for us to score in Seattle. So Maxime making those saves was absolutely crucial in setting the tone for us. But after that, we started building a little bit. Now, 7th minute, we had a really good buildup. Your boy, our beloved Giorgio Chiellini, he finds Carlos Vela, who had an absolute brilliant connection to Denis Bouanga, but unfortunately, Denis skied it well above the hands and the head of Stefan Frei. In the 20th minute, and I'm going to argue that this is probably one of the most crucial moments of the game, there was a yellow card given to Nuhu for his foul on Ryan Hollingshead. And one can argue that that took away from his ability to play more aggressive on the defensive end. Nuhu, one phenomenal defender. Yeimar Andrade Gomez, another phenomenal defender, a finalist for Defender of the Year. Look, Seattle has an impressive back line, a team that has only allowed 32 goals over the course of the regular season, tied for least fewest along with the likes of Nashville. We talk about Stefan Frei, 14 clean sheets, a .88 goals against average. It is not easy scoring against the Sounders, but obviously that foul against Nuhu proved to work in our benefit because he was operating pretty much like a boxer would with one arm tied behind his back throughout the majority of this game.
Philly, I totally agree. I think the other thing that helped prevent was actually the attack from both wings on Seattle's offense. We saw Alex Roldan pushing up that right side so much during the course of that match. And I think it became a one-sided attack on that right side because Nuhu could not push all the way back up just in case a player got behind him. And if he had to commit that foul on maybe a dog so or maybe the last man, one of those kind of things, then all of a sudden he picks up his second yellow and he's out and they're down to 10. So absolutely, I completely agree. That was a huge moment of the match. And look, I thought our passing 25, maybe even 30 minutes in, our passing was rough. We could not string passes together until the 30th minute with Timothy Tillman springing Denis Bouanga. But I got to say this, look, the pass was great and the ability to spring Denis was great. But what made this goal is what's made Denis Bouanga an absolute assassin this season. He was basically even with the defender and then took that into another gear. I loved what Denis Bouanga did, Philly. He headed straight into the goal box and was able to create the angle by getting that speed. Oh my goodness, the speed that he was able to create, and a beautiful rocket from Denis Bouanga. No clean sheet for Stefan Frei today.
No, I agree. And a lot of that came by way of Ryan Hollingshead's pass into Timothy Tillman. Look, Kike Oliveira had the wherewithal to get out of the way, allow that through ball into Denny, which enabled him to make his run on that left flank. And obviously you give Denny any kind of space, he's going to smash it. And he's been in tremendous form. 6 playoff goals in 6 or so games throughout his history as a member of the Black and Gold. Scored twice with Gabon over the course of the international break. He's been on a great run. His 37th goal over the course of this entire season in all competitions. And we spoke about this during One More Sleep. LAFC was 21-4 when they score first. And you can add another notch to that because Denis puts LAFC up, and now we end up 21-1-4 in all competitions when we score first. I'm not going to pat myself on the back. I said that we would win 1-0 and that Denis Bouanga would be the goal scorer. I originally thought that it would be after the 80th minute. I didn't think we would have a high-scoring game just based on what LAFC has done in Lumen Field historically and how well Seattle defends the ball. But with Denis Bouanga scoring early, that's going to make them play the exact reverse of what the Sounders would want to do. Now, normally, Sounders would wait for the team to go out there and make the mistake and beat them on the counter. But in this place, they're playing on their back heels, and they would do so for the vast majority of this game. Denis Bouanga's goal was huge, but even more important than his goal scarf, again, was Maxime Crepeau making those saves early on before Denis' goal. That really set the tone of this game for LAFC.
No, you're absolutely right. Look, we got as you called it, the spaghetti leg of one Giorgio Chiellini started in the 40th minute as Josh Atencio sweeps the leg on Giorgio for a yellow. I mean, that was kind of rough. It was a real tough foul by Giorgio. He got right back up. Look, I love Giorgio, but that yellow, again, now you got Josh Atencio, who likes to play up in the midfield. He's an attacking midfield player. He gives them a little bit of size on set pieces. There were just a lot of things that I thought after the first half, their hands were tied. Joao Paulo had that one shot from distance right towards the end of the half. But Philly, we go in up 1-0. Let's be real. LAFC created one chance for the most part in that half. One chance. Now, doesn't matter how many chances you create. If you can put them away with the efficiency of 1 for 1, then you're good. But not a lot going on for both sides, really. After, I mean, look, I think Seattle was pretty mute for maybe the final 35 minutes of the half, and we were pretty mute with the exception of that one 30th minute play by Denis Bouanga. This was just a great kind of heavyweight prize fight that we saw in the first half.
Football's a very funny sport, man. I mean, obviously we converted on the one opportunity we had, and honestly, we didn't really have that many in the second half either. If we close out the first half, the stats are as follows. Seattle had 5 shots to LAFC's 4. They had 3 shots on target to our 1. Hell, we're batting 1,000. That's pretty darn good. The vast majority of possession would fall in favor of the Sounders, 61 to 39%. The passing accuracy, the Sounders were significantly better than LAFC was. They had a few more fouls. They had a lot more set pieces, and actually they would end up having a lot more set pieces throughout the majority of the game. But if you look at things, your XG, they're sitting at a 0.62. We're sitting at a 0.26, but we converted. I'm sorry. I'm hearing a cat scream at the end. That's Hagrid. Seattle was the better team from a statistical perspective within the first half. But again, football is just strange. What matters is the end result. Nobody gives a hoot if you what's the word I'm looking for? It's better to win ugly than lose pretty. And at the end of the day, this was the only offense that we would see. LAFC's goal, the lone goal, and honestly, the only dangerous opportunity. And that's all that it would take. And it's so wild to me that in a sport, in a game as highly competitive and in a scenario that it's literally do or die, for the game to pretty much end in the 30th minute of the first half, that by itself is a wild statistic to me.
Well, I'll say this. The offensive portion of the game ended in that 30th minute, obviously, right? Because I think, and we'll talk about this as we address the second half here. Look, the bottom line is I think Seattle was the best team from box to box. Seattle was by far the best team today. Seattle was the best team from box to box. But once it came time to execute in the box for Seattle, I'll say this. I think LAFC played exactly the match that LAFC wanted to play tonight. They really did. We knew that LAFC was going to allow Seattle to possess the ball. We knew that LAFC was going to sit back a little bit more than they normally do against Seattle, and it worked. I'll say this as we talk about the second half now. Seattle realized 10 minutes into the second half that they needed to switch something. So they bring on club legend and MLS icon, Nico Lodiero. To give you an idea, guys, Nico Lodiero, 8 goals, 11 assists in the playoffs. That's 19 goal contributions, 5th most in MLS history during the playoffs. 5th most. I think that was the litmus test for Brian Schmetzer. Hey, can I bring on Nico, and can he get things going for us in a way that causes LAFC to have to change tactics, change shape? And to that question, LAFC said, Nico Lodiero is not going to be a part of what goes on tonight. LAFC did not change anything that they did. LAFC remained the best club tonight in the defensive third, inside their own 18 and just outside of it as well. I can't tell you how many times it was either Giorgio Chiellini or Giorgio Chiellini or Giorgio Chiellini that made plays coming just outside the box or in the box. But even so, Murillo playing with the composure of the veteran that he has become back there. I don't think we heard anything from either wing all night with Ryan Hollingshead and Cheeky Palacios kind of shutting everything down. I definitely think, though, Philly, something you and I were talking about at the watch party tonight. LAFC parked the bus a little early for our liking.
Yeah, maybe. And honestly, I really thought that that's probably what would have happened. I didn't think it would occur as early as it did. I didn't think LAFC's goal scoring would occur as early as it did. I would have anticipated them getting a late one and then having to park the bus much later on in this game, but they pretty much operated on their back heel the vast majority of the game. I mean, I don't know if you necessarily want to go minute by minute within the second half, because all it really was nail biting for us. Seattle, while they had some opportunities, I can't say they really threatened. I mean, Maxime made a couple of saves. The broadcasters alluded to the fact that, oh, Maxime made an incredible save. Some of the saves that they alluded to, that they claimed that Maxime made, that was great. Look, had he gotten a finger on it or not, there was no way some of these shots were in line to be that devastating. It was nerve-wracking for us, obviously, because we operated on our back heels. Seattle maintained the vast majority of possession. They had more shots on target. Their passing accuracy absolutely destroyed us. When the game is all said and done, we had 69% passing accuracy. There's JV teams in the Inland Empire that have better passing accuracy throughout the course of a game than LAFC did. But none of that really matters, because at the end of the day, it's all philosophy. We found the back of the net once, and that's all that we needed.
Yeah, J. David Wallace in the chat said, right, how frustrating it was that we couldn't even string 3 passes together. Look, I think someone else also mentioned the dark arts, right? That we kind of went a little dark artsy on them. That was an interesting way that we went about some of this second half. I thought that we did it a little bit too much and started a little too early. But I'll say this. If you look at momentum, right? I don't know that Seattle was ever able to build momentum. They were able to keep possession. But, I mean, if we just talk about some of the moments, right? You got 66th minute with Joao picking up that yellow. You got the 71st minute where they bring on Raul Ruidiaz, who didn't really do anything in this match. And the 75th minute, to me, for everything that Maxime Crepeau did, for everything that Max did, it was Timothy Tillman saving our bacon on the back line. It should absolutely have been 1-1. Look, a slow roller too. Can you imagine that ball in an ugly ball in the box, a long set piece after a kind of a silly foul by Carlos Vela, but that long set piece, I think it was Nico Lodiero, who sent that ball in. And Philly, if not for Timothy Tillman in the 75th minute, this would be 1-1, and we would be talking about a very different outcome.
I mean, I would agree with Expert Savage 3. I was pissing my pants throughout the second half as well, and I was wearing suit pants. They wouldn't have necessarily secreted the waste as well as sweatpants would have. Yeah,
God,
it was just scary.
Time out. Hold on.
What?
Did you have to use the phrase secreted the waste? I just threw up in my mouth.
What's urine? Urine's waste.
I know, but secreting the waste played at the Troubadour last night, and they were not very good. Dear God, man. Good.
Are you just bothered by the imagery of the term?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, you know what? Then this is fun for me because part of what I enjoy doing within this podcast is mildly annoying you, which is why anytime somebody references Hello Kitty, I am more than happy to whip her out because I love the reaction on your face. So if secreting the waste is something that bothers you, I meant to put that in my memory bank and continue on with it throughout the history of what you and I do together.
By the way, Big Kid Zach, I didn't want you to actually go to bed. You haven't been in the chat since we talked about Hello Kitty. So hopefully Big Kid Zach didn't go to bed. But yeah, Philly, a little bit of controversy there, right? After the Timothy Tillman play where Jackson Reagan fouls Maxime Crepeau in the box, and the angle on the back, right? That's what kind of showed that it actually was a foul. It looked like kind of a soft foul. And then something that was interesting, Philly, and I want to get your take on this. You and I was talking about this with Panda. 78th minute, Matty Bogusz comes on for Carlos Vela. We have seen Carlos Vela. Oh, geez, Soccer USA, don't feed the ego.
No ego, my man. I've gotten my ass kicked in life, physically and metaphorically, to the point where I don't have any ego.
I'm giving you a hard time, brother. 78th minute, we see Carlos Vela come off, and you and I have seen Carlos Vela come off and be apoplectic sometimes. Super pissed that he's coming out of the game, throwing stuff, yelling at people, not high-fiving. That was very different of Carlos Vela today, right? It seemed like he kind of knew he was putting in the shift that he was going to put in, and then if LAFC was up late, he would come out for Matty and they would begin the bus parkery for real at that point.
Look, Carlos Vela is an offensive weapon, but one would argue as the game matures, he is a defensive liability.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the stamina that a Matty Bogusz would. So that was a very clever substitution by Steve Cherundolo because obviously the name of the game at this point is playing defense. Carlos is not a nimble character at the age of 34. Matty Bogusz is. He's a midfielder. You're going to want a defensive midfielder in this game because you know that Brian Schmetzer is going to go all systems forward, all players attack. And Carlos Vela isn't going to be someone that's going to sustain that kind of effort, having played 70-something minutes within the game. So to me, it's not a surprise that he wasn't upset. I honestly feel that he was like, all right, this is kind of cool. I'm out of I'm no longer a liability anymore. Let somebody else go in and take care of business, and take care of business they did.
Yeah, I want to mention something real quick too. In the 80th minute, and here's the comment that LAFC Wolf made. I'm going to read LAFC Wolf's comment so that everybody who's listening on whatever it is that you listen to, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, any of the other places that we are on. Hopefully you're following at Defenders of the Bank. When Giorgio went out to get his wounds patched, Sounders attacking the weak spot for 20 seconds was scary. When Giorgio came back to the pitch, that tension went away. In the 80th minute, it is exactly what happened as Maxime Crepeau has to make a save on Alex Roldan, jumping high and putting it over the bar. It's one of those that you were talking about, right? It may not have actually been going on target, but it was still the need for us to be able to make a play like that. And Maxime absolutely made that play time after time after time. But Giorgio was out, and man, Schmetzer, Seattle, that gritty veteran team, they absolutely attacked that weak spot, that soft spot with only 10 men on the pitch. They went right at where Giorgio would have been. It was a brilliant tactic by Brian Schmetzer. And I mean, geez, they did everything they needed to do. Maxime with another fingertip save just a couple minutes later. And then look, let's be honest, Philly, other than a yellow card for Maxime, a yellow card for Cheeky, a yellow card for Giorgio in these last few minutes, it was really the one time, right, where Rui Diaz hands the ball down in the box. They put it in, but it didn't matter, right? It was a clear handball. The defending by LAFC from like the 80th minute until those 8 minutes of stoppage time was over, that was a master class against incredible opposition. If LAFC is going to play this kind of defense on the back line, I don't care who we play. There's no way teams are going to be able to score enough goals against us to beat us in a one-off.
I'll tell you, no, you're right. I mean, that was a masterclass performance, but with 8 minutes worth of stoppage time, obviously we probably all looked at each other thinking, oh crap, this is way, way too much time left in this game. And in that 90th +4, the player to watch that I had selected, Albert Rusnak, former member of Real Salt Lake, a guy who was scored in 3 out of the last 4 for the Sounders. He had a shot, brother, that absolutely made me poop my pants. Fortunately, it hit off the crossbar. Max didn't touch it, though. And we get ourselves into a scenario where there is a corner for the Sounders. Max definitely did not have a touch on it. But regardless, nothing came as a result of that. But that was a close call. If the soccer gods were brutal and were against us at that point, that's where I might have had a problem yet again with the officials. But fortunately, nothing came as a result of that. And that was really the last big play of this game. We saw Joao Paulo do a couple of things. You know, when the camera panned over to him and you could see him arguing with Uncle, when was the last time that Joao he slept? He had bags under his eyes that, you know, were heavy as all hell. It's like he went to Vons on Black Friday and bought everything. His eyes were just so like baggage claimed. It looked like he wanted to cry the entire game. I feel like his presence and his emotion dictated and set the tone for the Sounders. He was depressed and upset. And you know what? For a little while, those in the Pacific Northwest are going to be upset because they've constantly put it and shoved it in our face. We beat you in 2019. We beat you in 2020. You can't beat us in the playoffs. You can't beat us at home. Well, quite honestly, nothing feels better than silencing these flipping Sounders right now. We still have an uphill battle. We play Houston next week at the bank, and then we take on the winner of the Hell is Real Derby. I like Ohio personally, having gone to college in the Midwest, but despite it all, nothing feels better than getting another notch in our bedpost. Seattle goes by way of being dumped into the Puget Sound, and I'm feeling pretty darn good about that.
Yeah, let's not forget, by the way, this brings Steve Cherundolo's playoff record to 6-0, folks. Dude's never lost in the playoffs. Now, look, he doesn't score goals. He doesn't pass the ball. He doesn't save a shot. So yeah, Philly, they want you to talk about Corey Baird and how we get to play Corey Baird next, by the way. Did you hate Corey Baird as much as I did? Actually, I think I was the one that was the Corey Baird hater for a while, but that's okay. Look, we had a question about where the Roldans are going to watch the game. They're from Artesia, so maybe they can come watch it at I don't know, at BMO. They can come watch it here. Corey Baird is a rich man's Danny Musovsky. That's a great comment. Look.
Damn, that is a great comment.
That's Philly. The bottom line is this, my friend. Saturday, December 2nd at BMO Stadium, we got a date with Houston. And I can't wait. I mean, at the watch party today, we were at BMO Stadium. We were at Free Play and Fields. The 3252, those that didn't make the trek out to Seattle, they were on the second floor there up in Free Play. And man, the atmosphere they provided at BMO, the chants, the drumming, the energy, the electricity. Can you imagine? Now we get the Western Conference final at BMO with the 3252, knowing that it is going to be the last time that they get to cheer on the black and gold at home in 2023. I can't wait, Philly, for what the 3252, for what the 22,000 at BMO Stadium, and of course, what the millions
and millions
bring on Saturday, December 2nd. Ruben wants to see those damn banners.
He's not wrong. What the flip is up with that ish?
I don't know.
Larry, you listen to this pod. Tell the BMO Stadium manager that wind doesn't fucking matter. Oh, God, I'm going to have to bleep that out. Show those banners. It is not easy to win a championship in any professional sport. We have won, and we are on the precipice of potentially repeating. There's absolutely no reason that when Houston comes into BMO Stadium for us not to remind them who the defending champions are. The fact that we have not had those banners out there shining brightly aggravates me, considering the amount of money that we have spent during that postseason. I want to see those banners. We all want to see those banners. And by the way, Jack, you're right. I didn't remember mocking Corey Baird with his goal celebration. Yeah, Corey Baird was a bit of a putz with his goal celebration. The one thing I got to say, though, is how important LAFC's contribution to this MLS playoff has been. Christian Ramirez scoring a game-winning goal for the Columbus Crew. Franco Escobar scoring that game against the Houston Dynamo. We got LAFC players contributing left and right to teams that they probably shouldn't belong to. But that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, look, let's get through Houston before we talk about playing Diego Rossi or Christian Ramirez or anybody else. I love it. Look, here's the deal. This, to me, was the most professional win that we have had in our club's history. I'm going to say that one more time so y'all can hear me out. This was the most professional win that LAFC has had in our club's history. Yes, there were better wins. There were better wins. The MLS Cup, obviously, the 5-3 drubbing with Adama Diomande putting the stake through the heart of Carson Galaxy. Those are better wins. But LAFC doesn't win games like this, Philly. LAFC gives up goals in the last 10 minutes against good teams like Seattle to make it 1-1 and then find a way to lose it later on. This was one of those that good teams become great teams by winning matches like this. This was, to me, the most professional win in LAFC's 6 years because of how we did it, who we did it against, and where we did it.
I mean, we're in a really good place right now. I mean, we're hosting the Western Conference Finals, which one way or another, this is going to be the final home game of BMO in the year 2023. So we are a fortress. We are a phenomenal place. We are a place where teams pretty much come to die. We don't lose very often at BMO Stadium. And that's pretty much the sentiment that we're going to have when we host the Houston Dynamo. Look, when I think of them, Scarf, I think of that time that we clinched the Supporter Shield in 2019. I don't necessarily think of that 2018 loss in the U.S. Open Cup semifinal that maybe some do. To me, the Houston Dynamo, you know, they're a team that has done some pretty good things. They obviously have some trophies to claim within this year. They've got some really good players. We get to see Ache again. I mean, they're not a bad team, but I welcome them to BMO Stadium. I would rather compete against them than Sporting Kansas City. I've said it. Sporting Kansas City was the most dangerous team going into the postseason with the run that they've had. But now that we get to host the final game of 2023 in the friendly confines of BMO Stadium in front of 22,000 screaming black and gold supporters. And I swear to God, if those of you who have season tickets don't show up because you have other obligations, this is the game to show up in. You love this club, don't give up those tickets. This is the game to be at because once again, we will add another piece of silverware to our trophy cabinet. We will be Western Conference champions after next week, en route to going to the state of Ohio. I don't give a hoot if it's Cincinnati or the Columbus Crew. Quite honestly, let it be the Columbus Crew so we can absolutely stick it to Diego Rossi and Christian Ramirez. No animosity there, but why not stick it to them anyway? And that's how I want this season to end. We have an absolutely wonderful opportunity to go back to back, something that has not happened in a long time in Major League Soccer. And at that point, notch a second star above our crest. And I can't wait for this to happen. And I can't wait for all the other haters to go out there and say, oh, well, you need 3 more to really mean something to the rest of us. I can't wait for that dialogue to occur. But we are on course, my man. Again, there are only 4 teams left out of 29 in Major League Soccer in this postseason. And after next week, we will be one of 2 left as the season comes to a conclusion.
Absolutely right. Look, it's 11:36 on a Sunday night. We made it in under, I guess, an hour.
Not over
10. Yeah, just barely. Either way, doesn't matter. We're talking about a big W, baby. Let's go. You guys know, if you need anything about LAFC, head on over to @Defenders of the Bank on your social media. Hit us up. Let us know what you're going to be doing on Saturday, December 2nd. Where are you going to be at? Are you going to be at the stadium? Are you going to be at a watch party? It only fits 22,000. We know there's so many more of you that want to go. Either way, you guys, this has been an incredible episode. We had a ton of people in the chat tonight. You guys are incredible. We love our chat. We love all of you. But more importantly, we love every single one of the millions
and millions
en route to this Western Conference final at BMO. I can't wait, Philly, Saturday, December 2nd. And you know how we like to end every single one of our episodes. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.